Picture yourself in a dark and smoky club. It's 3 in the morning and you're not really thinking, you're feeling the music. Think about the way a kick drum hits your chest, or that sharp slice of a hi-hat, maybe even the sudden crack of a clap cutting through the smoke. That's transient energy moving through your body before your mind even catches up. Transients are the first shockwave of a sound. They're what's connecting the music to your body. Before you even think about the groove, or before the melody pulls you in, really it's the transient that tells your brain that this is happening right now. It keeps you present and in the moment. They're what makes a groove feel tight, loose, aggressive, or hypnotic, and can really change the mood of a track. Too little and it might sound too soft, too many and it might sound overwhelming, but the correct balance is going to really make your track quite striking. It's in that split-second impact of a transient where you either lock the crowd in or you lose them. And today, that's really what this video is about. I want to show you how to take control of transients and how to sculpt them so that you can turn a good track into one that truly gets the crowd moving. So this is probably the most important thing that I learned over the course of last year in terms of improving my sound on a technical level. I think this information should be shared around because I don't think a lot of people are actually talking about it. There's lots of information online about what a transient is, but that's not what this video is about. This is more of a deep dive in how to control them, how to assess the transient content in your music, and how to reflect upon how that actually might make the listener feel in terms of an emotional response from the music. Although this is a technical topic and a technical video, you don't need to be advanced at Ableton or any other DAW to understand what's going on. This is going to be relatively simple in terms of its theory, but I hope that by the end of the video, we've put it into context of how you can actually really effectively use these sorts of techniques to improve the sound that you're going for. There's not a whole lot of information that I could find online, so really this is sort of my own personal learning about how to control transients. This all came about because I send some music to a friend to get their feedback, and I was actually asking them for some ways to improve my low end. And what they said back was really interesting. They're like, your low end is fine. What you need to focus on are the transients within your track. That's all they said, and I sort of ran with it in my own way. And so I'm about to share with you exactly what I learned. Okay, so I think the simplest way to demonstrate what I'm trying to talk about here is just do a simple A/B test on Ableton Live. I'll have 2 groups, one in blue, which is just a simple 808 drum rhythm. Now, the only changes I've made to that is I've adjusted some of the volume levels on the drums. That's it. I'll duplicate the group, and then we've got this green group, this new duplicated group, and that's where I'll start to apply this transient controlling theory, I guess. And we'll do a test. We'll just see what the raw audio sounds like, and then we'll see what the audio sounds like after I've done some transient controlling. So we'll start with the kick. This is what it sounds like normally. Now, you can hear the transient at the very beginning. It's not, I guess, like too amplified, but it's definitely the loudest part. And you can actually see it down here. This sort of like strange signal here, that to me looks like the transient. Now, if I want to soften the kick up just a little bit, all I'm really going to do is just drag the start slider. As you can see, I'm just going to zoom in so it's like completely in phase. That's all I'm really going to do. And suddenly we've got this like softer kick. This is what it sounds like before. It's that click really at the start. Now, that's pretty basic in terms of kick. Let's take this a little step further here. So on the clap, some things I've been doing is just dragging the start timer well down the sample. I kind of want to just skip this stuff, and I'll explain why in a second. So I'm going to find something in here. I've adjusted the tail as well as the start time. Now, this is obviously going to sound very different from what we had before. I'll do a quick test. To my ear, it sounds kind of like sharper, but what we're doing is we're taking out that audio at the very beginning of the sample, and we're just using the tail end of it. It's going to be quieter. As you can actually see on the sample, there's, I guess, like just it's not as amplified. So what that means is that although it sounds quieter, we can really start to boost the volume. What that's going to do is take away that sort of energy from the initial transient on the clap. And it's just leaving us with this really nice section of audio at the back. Now, it has a small transient on it, I guess, but it's like quite soft compared to the original sample. So that's the point I really want to get at here. We're going to get that really nice bit of audio at the back and just turn it up. It's really that simple. So with this maraca, it's not a very transient sound, I guess, because you can see on the actual waveform here, it's sort of like nice and smooth. The loudest part's actually in the middle. But I'm really interested in just this bit back here. Now we'll zoom in on that. Again, a lot quieter, but when we turn it up, that little click is just going to sound so nice. That sound that you really get in the tail end of these samples is really what I'm looking for. I think it's just the nicest sound. This isn't always going to apply to every sound that you do use, but this is just the way I've taken it. Now, let's look at this rim right here. I'm just going to start sliding the start time of the sample around just to see what's in there. It's quite nice. It's a bit softer, but it's quite nice. I'll take a look now just at the hi-hat here. Now, this is probably a good time to introduce a point that I want to make, which is we want to balance out transients within the track. Like, we want some in there so it just doesn't all sound flat. And this is probably one of those sounds that I would keep just to give it brightness. I've softened off a lot of the other sounds. So that's 4 different instruments that have less transient information. So they've all been softened off in a way. And that's going to really let this open hi-hat come through in the mix. So I'll just leave it basically. With this hi-hat as well, I might just take a little bit off the very start of the sample. Bit softer. So let's just do a quick A/B test on the first group of the unaffected sounds, and then we'll take a look at what this second group looks like. Okay, second one down here. I think now I'll do like a bit of a mix down on it in a sense and just like adjust some levels. Okay, I've done a little bit of fiddling around here on the second group. So just to sort of balance out the mix a little bit, it's going to sound quite different. And I don't think I've probably fully reached my point here yet. But one thing I want to, I guess, like get you to think about is the space I've now created by shortening up and tightening my sounds in this sort of, I guess, green group compared to just the raw audio sound of the first group, the blue group. That's probably the most noticeable difference. Let's take a listen. And then we're going to do the green group down here. Very different, right? Noticeably to me, the kick sounds a lot more sort of like punchy, I guess. There's that maraca, which is really sharp and short. But mostly it's the space in between the sounds that we've created. That's probably the most important part, because generally what I would do next is then saturate the entire sound. And I think that's something that glues everything together, but that's really important to note. It's about creating that sort of softness so that you can push those levels a lot harder. If you were to try and do the same with just the raw audio, it probably just sound a little bit more full on. That's not particularly the style that I want to go for. I guess some background context here. Some people that I think have this sort of technique nailed down would be Marcel Detman or Ben Klock or Shed or Mike Dennett. Obviously, there's probably a lot more other producers and stuff like that that have nailed it as well. That's just like a quick reference off the top of my head, but you'll notice in their tracks, like these sorts of sounds like kicks and snares and stuff are actually quite loud in the mix. They're quite saturated, but I feel they've done this kind of treatment to it. They've taken away that energy at the start of the sound to soften everything up so that you can then start to apply these layers of saturation to achieve like a really punchy, glued sound. Now, I couldn't help myself. I had to add in a bass line, so let's just hear that. It just sort of fills it out a bit. Now what I'm going to do to this entire group is saturate it effectively. I'm just going to use Ableton Standard Saturator. Cool, that's sounding a bit tougher. I might try and drive the saturation quite a lot just to see what happens. Something worth noting here is how nice that clap now sounds, that we've glued everything together with saturation. I'll go again. It's like tough, it's now really crunchy, but it's also loud and present without actually hurting your ears. And I think that's the main thing here. If we're taking out these short bursts of energy, these transients, we're taking away a lot of the sonic information that actually would probably hurt our ears if they were amplified. And that is really what is going to affect the overall listening experience. We're taking away this stuff that is actually not that pleasurable to listen to at times. And then we've sort of amplified it. And now it's like nice and soft and lovely sounding, but it's not hurting. And that's the main point. This is a really subtle psychoacoustic way to get even more enjoyment out of the track. And that is to just make the individual sounds sound pleasant to listen to. And that's probably the point that I want to actually reach with this video, is making it subtly pleasurable. It's so important because let's just go back to our other track, the unaffected. I'll actually add the saturation chain that I've just made to it, and we'll take a listen. It's not unpleasurable to listen to, but you'll notice that I guess like those elements are a little bit more bright. I'm wanting to take some of that brightness out because I think over a large period of time, you might get tired of those sounds. So I want to be conscious of making sure that the listener isn't sort of worn out by listening to the track. And I think that is also really important. That is going to affect how the audience, digests or like thinks or enjoys your music. Okay, so I've gone a little bit further here on our green group because I wanted to add in some reverb to the maraca and to the rim shot. Just to put it in the room a little bit. I can exactly like duplicate what I've done here, and I'll do that on the blue group as well, just so again we can do a faithful recreation. So this is what the blue group sounds like with the reverb effect. Okay, now this is the green group with that reverb, same reverb effect. To me, I prefer that sort of, I really like that rim shot sound, how it's softer, but the reverb is just sort of bringing it to life in a way, particularly with that maraca as well. It's so short, like the actual sample itself, we've made it so short that we're giving it a nice tail with the reverb. Again, you might actually prefer the first group. It's to your taste. To me, I'm following this approach because I want the best of my track, and I want it to be as enjoyed as best as possible. But also, I think in the context of really loud, club environments, we don't really want it too bright and loud because those higher frequencies are just going to, again, start hurting. So I think like that softer, warmer sound is really akin to big sound systems. Let's just take another quick listen. I think that gives you the sense of what I'm trying to get at here. Again, it's not groundbreaking. It's actually really quite simple when you think about it, but it's more the act of thinking about it. That's what I'm really trying to encourage here. I'm trying to get you to then start assessing every little sound in your project and getting you to think like, does it need less or more transients or transient information? How can I control it? Like, do I want this to be a soft sound? Do I want this to be a little bit brighter, or do I want it to cut through? Doing what we've just done now in this session is really the key to that. So for the final part of this, I want to share with you a sound which I'm particularly proud of. I've heard this track play at Berghain, and I was really happy with the results because I made the track with that environment in mind, and the sounds like coming out of the speaker system on my ear were really, really, really nice to listen to. So that's when I knew that what I was doing here was actually having a really good effect on my music, because it was just being enjoyed. It was nice to listen to when it was really loud. I won't show you the exact effect chain. That's my, I guess, like intellectual property in a sense, but I want to share it with you because I know that these sounds sound really good on those speaker systems, just to give you an idea of what the end result might sound like. So let me just share that with you now. You'll hear in there that there's no real transient information, but by applying these techniques and sort of amplifying and doing what we've discussed, it creates such a nice effect. And that's why I'm really sort of passionate about trying to share this message with you, because I think that it just is something that every producer should know and bear in mind, because it is a game changer. Try not be like put off by the results. Like, it's going to sound different and it probably will push you outside of your comfort zone at some point, but it's worth sticking with it. It's worth going along with the process. I do this now with every track that I make. It's a very important part of my production process. So yeah, I really hope this has helped. So I hope that makes sense. It might seem simple, but the more you practice it, I promise, the more you're going to get into the habit of being conscious of transient information in your track. And I think the more that you dial into the emotional response that they are giving you when you're listening back to the music, you're just going to find that your sound will improve. And I promise you, the more you keep doing this and the more you keep practicing it, you're going to start like feeding that way of thinking into your everyday production sessions. It'll just sort of become second nature. But once you've got control of these things, it makes the biggest difference to your music. So I encourage you to keep trying these sort of these techniques. Keep adding them into your production sessions, because it's going to make the biggest difference. It really will. So thank you for watching this video. I really do hope it helps. If you do have any questions, or you want to give your own ideas or feedback, that kind of thing, please do leave them in the comments, and we can discuss them. But again, thanks for watching. See you next time.